Hi everybody, I'm going to show you how I disassembled my RSV2. The reason I'm doing this video is because I couldn't find one on how to do it, so I really don't know how to do it, but let's work through it together. Okay, the first thing that I've done is undo the screws in his back. So here, 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 and the same on the other side. Here, and here. And then you don't pull the back off, you actually pull the front off when you do that. The chest plate comes away, like so. And you can have a bit of a look inside. So inside here, then I've actually removed it, but there's a screw here and the opposite side screw is here, so we need to take those out. There's also a screw down here. Not sure if you can see that from where you are. It's just underneath the section where this arm comes across. There's a screw there, and assume that we've got a similar one. No, we don't have a similar one. The one on the other side is actually up here, and so we unscrew those to release the back. So I'm going to do that now. As I said, I've taken this one out already. Now the screws in that I took out from the back first, there was 2, 4, 6, 8 of those. They're all the same length. These ones, these internal ones, which are removing the, which will hopefully allow me to remove the back plate. Are slightly smaller. I'm just using a magnet here to try and get that screw out, but it's not picking it up too well. There you go. The screw. I don't know about you guys, but I use a magnet stuck on the back of a plate here to catch all my screws. I recommend you do something like that. Okay, so I've removed those 4 screws that we talked about, and the back shell's wanting to come off, but it's held on by these shoulder springs here and here. Now that's all I can see at this stage. It's holding it on, so we're going to have to undo those first. So I'm just going to unclip them. That's one. That's 2. And if I spin around here, you'll see that the back section wants to come away, but there is the on-off switch here, so we need to disconnect that. So it looks like there is sockets on the back here that we can disconnect. So I managed to get these cables out, and this is one connection here. The other connection was this red one down here. This is to remove the back plate. Now all of these plugs are glued in, so there's some sort of rubbery type glue holding all the plugs in. You can pull them out, but it's quite difficult. So you need to be a little bit careful there. And as I continued on, all of these cables here around here, here. Basically, they're the connectors that run down to the legs, and this is where everybody, well, not everybody, this is where a lot of people have complained of having problems. There's these cables running down, all this bunch of cables running down here, and this bunch of cables running down here. So we're going to have to take this cover off as well. But one thing I wanted to show you here was when I undid this grey connector. Ooh, a little bit blurry. That's about as far in as I can get you there. This connector here, you can just see it there. I'll get my live around onto it a bit better. When I pulled it out, the base actually came off as well. So it just, the whole lot just sort of pulled out, still connected in. You can see the little, the plastic bit. The pins are still connected down onto the board, but just be careful of that. So that can go back in there, no problem, and just slide on there. And this is the connector that'll go back into place later. But you can see that these wires, oh, funnily enough, actually that one's one of the ones that is okay, so I didn't need to take that one off anyway. I'll leave it off now. But yeah, some of these the insulation's fine, and others it's just very crumbly. So only don't do what I did. Take the ones off, only the ones that you need to take off. So I'm just going to continue to pull these connectors off, the ones that do need to come off. And the main offender here is this one here, that's sort of what is it, 2, 4, 6 pin connector here, and then this other two down here. So I'm going to get this and as I keep rocking carefully, eventually the glue breaks and my cable is out, and you can see how badly damaged that cable is. So I want to get this other one here. There we go. So the other two that are connected back up on here are all okay, in fact. So I'm going to leave them on for the moment, but I'll probably need to pull them off later on, you know, just to be able to aid in rerunning these wires. So I'm just going to stop the video, but I'm going to do the other leg as well. And it's slightly different on the other side. There's some different connectors here, but just take note of the different connectors that you undo. I'm taking a video of it. That's my backup plan. So if I can't work out how things go back together, I'm just going to watch this again. Not a bad plan, I think. Okay, so I've disconnected all my cables that I want to disconnect for the moment, and I've loosened the screws here, here, and down his bum here, and I should be able to take off the back section now. Just be careful you don't lose those screws. Now these are mid-sized compared to the ones that we've pulled out before, so the longest screws were in the holding on the front, which we accessed through the back, and then we spun around, and the 4 screws that secured the rear shell on, they were the smallest ones. These 4 that hold the back in, bum, the arse, whatever you want, they're in between size. So just be careful that you don't get them mixed up. As I said, I've got my little magnet there, and it looks like the front is secured somehow. Gonna have to have a look at that in a moment. Somewhere, no, that slid out okay. So there's the lower torso section removed. That up out of the way. And we can see here our trouble cables continuing to run down through this spy wrap. This is the cable wrapping plastic here. See it running down here. There's a bit of a break, and then it continues on down and down into the legs where the batteries are, which is, incidentally, my unit just didn't work at all. I put the batteries in, it was dead as a doornail. Other people have reported that, you know, there's some signs of life, but it just doesn't do anything. Other people have reported the batteries have charged, batteries have overheated, or it's lost charge very quickly because of the shorts. In my case, dead as. Okay, I'm going to work out how to get these leg sections off next. I'll just pause the video while I do that. Okay, so I'm concentrating on getting these leg casings out, and you'll see here these kneecaps have to come off. There's a couple of little slider pins which run inside, I don't know if you can see that, there's grooves down in here which those 2 metal pins slide up and down and keep it captivated there. So we need a small screwdriver because these are the smallest screws yet, and we loosen those off and they just come apart like so. And probably not a bad idea just to put them back together. Put the screws back in there a couple of turns, and we'll just put them away for later. Okay, so now that we've got the knees freed, we can work on undoing the screws here, and then at the top here, which we're going to have to sort of bend the knee around to get into. So at the top here and on here, we'll take the top off. There's also a screw down inside here which we might have to move the legs back to get to. That'll take this piece off, I expect. And then we've got screws down on the feet to separate the foot pads. Okay, so I'll work on that. Okay everybody, we're just going to go through the stripping down of the legs now, and if you have a look down here you can see that I've done one leg So last time we had a look, so the back was taken off, and then I took off this this thigh plate, and then this sort of ankle cover here. We undid it and screwed inside, and I've just used a bit of tie wire here just to lift it up out of the way while we removed the bottom feet pieces. And you can see in here where all the wiring that we need to replace terminates. So just down here is the main cables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down there. Then you've got your they go to the various sensors in the feet, the bumper bars, etc. And then you've got your motor cables here, so there's red and the brown, and then your main battery power leads, the D cell positive over here and the negative down here, and they're the only ones that are going up through this wiring loom that's got the cracked and damaged cabling. So let me just zoom that back out and we'll start pulling this apart. Okay, the next step is to mark all our wires. Now I've started a Excel spreadsheet for this purpose, and I'll just show you that. Put up my new colour scheme here, which are the cables that I'm going to make the new wiring loom out of. Now I didn't want to buy that many different coloured cables, so all I did was bought some blue and some brown cable, and I've got some black and red heat shrink, and I made up a little colour code here which is comprising of various configurations of those three colours, and that's enough to have two coloured heat shrinks and two colour wires is enough to make up the sort of 10, easily make up 10 different wires. So I've used a lot of help from Evosapien's very good, very handy website with instructions on how to where all these connections go. So I'd encourage you to refer to that as you're going. And now I'm just going to finish that off, and then I'll start preparing the wires. Okay, I've made up the rest of my wiring colour code, so I've got that listed on my Excel spreadsheet, and I've just prepared one cable here. I'm not sure if you can see that too well, but I've just put a couple of bits of red heat shrink on there. This is a blue wire with two reds, and I mark each end. There's the other two. So I mark each end and just make the cables up at approximately the right length that I need. So I've cut all my short cables, my blues and my browns here, ready to be marked. And the next thing to do, I think probably the easiest way of doing it is to cut all these wires off now and remove the wiring loom. So we've got everything marked down, so it should be safe for us to go ahead and cut these. Now with these ones down here on this board here, just make sure you leave enough slack to solder on the new tails, because the way I'm going to do it is just to solder on the tails here and then solder my new wires down onto the tails coming off this board, and then just heat shrink them on. I haven't considered pulling the board out and re-soldering them all the way through, because there's a bit of glue and stuff around there which is a little bit messy. So that's my plan anyway. I might change my mind later on. So I'm just going to cut these off here. Okay, so we should be able to pull this wiring loom out now. Now as we flex it out, all of the insulation is cracking and falling out everywhere. So we're going to need to give this a really good blowout when we're done. Now one thing I need to be careful of, there's just a cable tie there that I missed, which I'm going to cut off because it won't get through. One thing I need to be careful of is room, because the wire that I bought, this is the cable that I bought, it's a little bit, in fact it's quite a bit bigger than the original wire, but I couldn't find anything exactly right. So when it comes time to threading it back through here, sorry I should have showed you that. I just pulled this wiring loom out as it came out through there from the back of the leg here. There's not a lot of room in there, so my bunched up cables might struggle to fit through there, so I'm just hoping that's not going to be a problem. We'll just have to wait and see. So now I've got my wiring loom all separated here, and I just need to make one more cut here to remove this cable tie. And there's our wiring loom that we need to make a new one of. Obviously we need to leave a little bit of extra length there, so I'm going to do that, and as I go through I'm going to solder on in the same method to the ends of these. So I'm going to cut each wire. Let me see if I can zoom in there. So I'm going to cut each wire and then just leave just a few millimeters there that I can solder onto, and then slide a bit of heat shrink over it with my new wire. Okay team, sorry I was away for a while there, I didn't get back to this project, but here we are. We're going to continue on with this rewiring job, and you can see that I've done one side already. I'll just tilt that up a bit so you can see. You can see all those wires coming up onto the board there. And now I've just used two colours, as I said before, and put some other codes on them to differentiate so that I can get the various cables. Now I'll just show you that I just charted everything out there, the colours, the source and the destination, left and right leg, the colour of the original cables and the colour coding of my new system. So that way, if I forget or get lost, it's easy to use as a reference. Now, when you cut the wires off, don't cut them off right down near where they're soldered on. Cut them back up a little bit, so leave a little bit, about an inch of wire, and that is helpful later on, because when you break off the insulation, you want to tin it, then with the long tail on it you can easily twist the wires. I'll show you what I mean when we get to it. So I'm just going to do that with each of these wires. I'm going to cut them off about an inch up. Leave a little bit of a tail there. These ones across here, I'm just going to do them all together. Okay, we've got a couple here. And one down the back there. Very good light, is it? Okay, I'm just going to take that cable tie off as well. Okay, so I cut, here's my loom that I've just pulled out. Now I've left 1 inch on each of the cables, each of the wires that I've had to disconnect. So down on this little foot on the left foot board, there's 1 inch of the original cable still there. The battery casing, there's 1 inch, and on the motor terminations here, there's 1 inch of the original wire left on, and that's to help me solder it up, as you'll see later on. I've pulled it out. Now in the top half, up where the wiring loom comes in through the back here, the original wiring loom comes up through the leg just like this one does, and then up to here, and about here it gets joined in with these other wires up here, which are perfectly good. There's no need to replace those, but they're in the same bit of spy wrap here that this bad wiring is in. So you just have to take off that spy wrap from the top section and separate these bad wires from these perfectly good wires that we're going to leave in situ, and then that allows you to remove the wiring loom. Now I can cut my new pieces, which I've got all here, all ready to go. I know how long to make them because I can use each of the wires in this loom here, and I just need to add 1 inch onto the length. Yeah, I just need to add 1 inch onto the length of these wires that I removed, and that'll give me the correct length and allow for that inch that I left in place. So I'm going to use my list of all the cable terminations and this to get the length, and my various pieces of wire that I've got cut here ready to go, and I'm going to make up that new loom. So if you look here, not sure if you can see this too well, here's all my cables that I've already cut, and you can see that I've got my colour coding system on there. And what I've used is just used heat shrink to try and get that up so you can see it. Use heat shrink just to separate the different cores. So you've got 2 base colours, brown and blue, and then you've got just different code on there. So you can use individual colour cables, whatever you want. And here's my old wire, my multi-core that I pulled down, and you can see that I'm just measuring that against the other one. I get to the other end and I'm just leaving my new ones about an inch longer than the other ones I cut off with, and that's to allow for the bit that I left down on the end there, which is going to help me twist together. Now when I cut them short, you can see all these cables here. Now that I've got my lengths correct, I can cut them off. And again, I'll just leave them with a bit of length there. And as you cut them off, I'll just cut them all. Finish it in now. Now that I've cut them, you can grab each one and just twist it like that. And see how it gives a nice clean twist along here. Instead of if you cut it too short, you can't twist it, so you leave these tails on to allow it to twist. So there's my cut off piece all prepared, and you can see that I've got these wires all nicely twisted together along here, and I've left just little bits of the colour coding on those. So now I'll go through and cut them off one at a time, tin the ends and solder my new wires onto them, and then slide a bit of heat shrink over them. And it just helps me by leaving these little bits of colour on it, helps me remember which one is which. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see that too well, but I've spliced this one on here. So I've just tinned this new bit of wire and sweated it straight onto the old wire. And I'm just going to slide the heat shrink over that joint and shrink that over so that I don't mess up that joint when I'm soldering the one next door. So by protecting that, now when I do the soldering to the next one next to it, I'm not going to sort of risk getting them sort of the heat transferring onto the one next door and unsoldering it again. So I'm just going to do the rest of those there. Okay, so there's the finished connection with the heat shrink over each of the joints, and then the colour coded tags down here. And put them all back into the loom. Okay team, I'm not sure if you can see that very clearly, but I just left this last wire just to show you the connection point. So you can see that I've joined these other ones here, and I've got this last one to go in here. I've got some others to go onto the battery, etc. Now somewhere here I should have a little bit of heat shrink that I've cut here. That's got to slide onto this wire first. Okay, now that's going to come on later on to cover up the joint. Now I'm going to just put a bit of fresh solder on there, just so that I know it's going to make a good joint. I'll slide that down into there and just splice it on. You can see that I've left just about a I don't know, half a centimetre, 5 millimetres, something like that there on this length. Now you remember before I left an inch on there, and that enabled me to twist the wires together so it was nice and tight after everything crumbled off, and then I could tin those and then trim it down to about 1/2 centimetre, and that makes for a nice joint. Now I can just slide that heat shrink down over there, put my heat gun on it. Okay, and there's our connections onto the board.